further ado, let's analyze. Alright, let's get started with this tactical analysis video. We started this game against Manchester City the same way we started many of our games this season, mainly the games against Fulham and Arsenal, i.e. we started well, but then we didn't end up getting the results that we probably deserved. Now, why were we so good against Manchester City in the first half, at least up until they were able to score that first goal? Well, a variety of reasons that I'm going to show you in this video. The first one is that, for some reason, Ruben Amorim is still hell-bent on pressing with this structure, you know, this pentagon shape with the two double pivots who are pressing quite high with the three forwards. But of course, I've highlighted in many of my previous videos, especially the video against Fulham, the importance of the wide centre-backs, in this case, Lucho and Lenny Oro, of stepping into the midfield. As you can see, they're acting as two defensive midfielders effectively ahead of the wing backs as well as the left, the central back. And so by doing this, they were able to squeeze out all of these spaces in between that pentagon shape and of course the defensive line, therefore making it extremely hard for the Manchester City players to be able to collect the ball and build up from the back. Another reason is that Rodri, who is of course a world-class player, did not look world-class in the first half. And so we were able, he's actually the main outlet for Manchester City when it comes to building up from the back. And the fact that he was not really in form in the beginning of the first half made it easier for us. Second reason, one of the reasons that I really love these modern hybrid centre forwards, you know, tall and fast, the likes of Højlund, Šeško, Gyökeres, etc., is that not only are they able to play as a target man and hold up the play and act as a target man for balls coming in from deep, but also they are quite fast in that they can really stretch the opposition defensive lines by making these runs in the shoulder of the last defender. And Šeško did quite a couple at least of these in the first half, which meant that the Manchester City defenders were always aware of his presence. Therefore, they would not take a lot of risks by pushing the defensive line high. That also made it easier for us in that it made Manchester City's press quite ineffective. And another reason is, of course, Ugarte, who I think he's been having, he's been quite criticized by Manchester United fans. I think, of course, yeah, his performances have not been the best, but I think that there is a player here. And when we talk about a destroyer, I don't think that there are many players who are as good a destroyer as Ugarte, and in this game he definitely showed that. Now, let's talk about Manchester United on the ball. Okay, so again, same thing. Ruben Amorim prefers to have his centre-back pushing in these areas. Well, the reason for that is that, as you can see here, the Manchester City players are actually the ones pressing us in a pentagon shape, and the fact it puts Matthias de Ligt in the middle of all of these players, is able to receive the ball, creating verticality. Credit to Bayindir right there, who probably is not good enough to be a shot stopper for Manchester United, but his ball playing ability is definitely good. He's shown it many times, and in this game also he was quite good. And then, of course, with the left having this space here, even though the pass was a little bit overhead, we're able to create verticality towards Amad Diallo, just bypassing this defensive line from Manchester City. And this actually shows us what Ruben Amorim wants his team to do with the ball, which will also give us hints as to why he doesn't rate Kobbie Mainoo as much as someone like Erik ten Hag, for example. Here we can see Ruben Amorim ball on display, because what he likes to do is these triangles right here to bypass the opposition defensive line. So here you have this first line, create a triangle, create verticality, and play quick passes, in that he doesn't want his players to control the ball and be patient in the build-up, but play quick, incisive football. And here another triangle in order to bypass this defensive line with Mbemo right here, who's going to move into this pocket to receive the ball. And then now the third stage, so after bypassing this line, now it's about passing the ball wide towards Dorgu right there in order to attack the final line. So you can clearly see the building blocks of what Ruben Amorim wants to see from his team, both defensively, like I showed with the wide centre backs pushing forward in order to squeeze those spaces, and with the ball as well. He doesn't want his players in the midfield to be patient with the ball. But of course, that ends up backfiring against us, because of course there is that goal that we've conceded, Holland's third goal, with Maguire doing the same thing that I'm going to show the left here doing. I did not want to include that sequence because I don't want to look at it again. And here the left is going to be guilty of that, in that because Ruben Amorim encourages the players to play quick football from the back, sometimes it leaves us vulnerable. Right here, Bruno is in the right position, but Doku can quickly intercept that telegraphed pass, and then they were actually quite close to scoring another goal. Now, let's talk about Bruno Fernandes, because I think that it's an open secret here on Scarlet Report that I'm a huge Bruno Fernandes fan, okay? I mean, who wouldn't, right? But this season, I mean, he didn't start as well as we are used to seeing Bruno Fernandes play for Manchester United, especially when it comes to his defensive duties. If you remember, I've highlighted that goal that was scored by Fulham. I think it was Smith Rowe, where Bruno Fernandes was tasked with marking him, and of course he didn't do his job properly. That's why we conceded. Well, same thing here with Phil Foden goal. So here this was after Phil Foden scored, and here as you can see, Bruno is actually quite tight on Phil Foden right there, marking him personally, marking him tightly. Same thing here, and we were actually quite effective at winning the ball in the midfield with this strategy. But that was, just as is the case with many things related to Manchester United, too little, too late, because that was way after we actually conceded the goal. A goal that we should not have conceded, because Phil Foden right here should have been marked by Bruno, because again, this is also a structural issue with the Ruben Amorim's system, that you only have two midfielders. I think Bruno Fernandes himself said that it felt like the two midfielders that Manchester United had, Bruno and Ugarte, were playing against four Manchester City midfielders. They were able to overload the midfield, same way that Fulham played against us. So here Ugarte is going with Doku, but then Bruno has to be with Foden right here. There is absolutely no excuse to let Foden with this much space. And then of course, like, he's not tight with not one bit of intensity, and that's why we ended up conceding. All right, so now we have to talk about Ruben Amorim, and we have to talk about Ruben Amorim's tactics. And for that, let's use a music analogy just to lighten up the mood a little bit. Let's say you were a world-class producer and I sent you this. Hint of a melody. Yeah. Promising. Okay? Now, would you be able to turn this into a professional track that would be played on the radio, on Spotify, etc.? Well, probably not, because as you probably can sense from the performances, they're not as tight as they should be. My guitar was probably out of tune here, I think. So yeah, I mean, I don't even have a bass track, right? So of course, if I sent a producer this, it doesn't matter how good that producer is, he or she would never be able to turn these raw tracks into an amazing, professional, world-class song. It's the same with Ruben Amorim's tactics, is that right now I feel that we are way beyond the point of talking about tweaks. We cannot just talk about, oh, well, if the wide centre backs push up a little more, then everything is going to be fine. We cannot talk about, oh, but then you just need to play Bruno in the number 10 and then get Baleba in central midfield, and everything's going to be fine. No, I think that in the case of Ruben Amorim, just as was my case when I recorded this demo yesterday, I think that fundamentally there is a problem with how he's approaching football tactics. I feel that with Ruben Amorim, we are opting for a high risk, very low reward strategy. And I don't think that these kind of strategies have any merit. I mean, that's just stupid, because the way we press leaves us vulnerable to counters, okay? And it takes a huge toll on the defenders, both mentally and physically, to always continuously cover that space. And a lot of teams have figured us out that if you put more men, especially agile dribblers, in the central park, that's it. You can just overload our system, and you can cause us a lot of problems and exploit our weaknesses at the back. Same thing with how we use the ball. In the attacking phase, Ruben Amorim clearly favors to play with intensity and speed when we have the ball, even from deep areas. This actually explains why he probably favors the likes of Casemiro and Bruno, because both of them can play those, no-touch passes. Whereas someone like Kobe Mainoo, who's more of a patient midfielder, someone who likes to slow the tempo down a little bit, is not as rated, or probably is not seen by Ruben Amorim as a good fit for what he wants to implement. But again, like we've seen with that the Ligt sequence that I've showed you, as well as the Maguire sequence that has led to Man City's third goal, again, why can't we build up with a little more patience? Why can't we use the ball with a little bit more respect? And so I think that with Ruben Amorim right now is taking too much of a risk, too big of a risk when we press, and too big of a risk when we build up. And the question is, why? Now, I also have to say that Manchester United has created a lot of chances. We have taken a lot of shots. And you could also make the argument that had the players put away their chances, maybe the results that we've had this season could have been different. But then again, when you look at the large sample of games that we have and the Ruben Amorim, questions have to be asked of the manager. Again, I'm not talking players. I think we have maybe 4 or 5 players. Those are probably Dorgun, Mason Mount, Cunha. You could probably make the case for Lisandro Martinez when he comes back, and that he could really thrive in that left-sided centre back. But that's about it. Every other player is kind of played out of position. Every other player is forced to adapt to a new way of play that doesn't really suit his attributes. And the question we have to ask is why? Now I get it. Some Manchester United fans, well, they're saying, yeah, but he needs to stick by his guns. Look, when it comes to standards, when it comes to building a culture, setting a consistent standard and of accountability, for example, fine, yes, I'm 100% with you. Ruben Amorim and any manager, in fact, in any industry, has to stick by their guns when it comes to that. But here we are just talking about tactical systems. I mean, why are we so enamored with this tactical system? What's so special about it? It's not like this is the holy grail of football tactical systems. It's not like this is the final stage of football tactical evolution, and then once Ruben Amorim finally figures it out, that's it. We will just finish the game and then move on to baseball or cricket or whatever. No, it's just a tactical system. Many teams have used it before. Many teams have moved on. Many teams have changed it, tweaked it to their needs. The 4-4-2 has been played by many teams throughout history, but none of those systems looks the same because every manager tweaks it according to the needs of his team, to his own preferences, as well as to the attributes available within the squad. And I feel that Ruben Amorim definitely needs to do the same thing. And if he doesn't, we are never going to get the results. If he's just hell-bent on using the system in its current form, when clearly the opposition had us figured out, then, what are we doing? So I understand that maybe this is a hot take, but I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section below. Thank you for watching the video. If you did enjoy this video, please give it the thumbs up. Until next time, cheers.
Wow, that was a rant at the end. But I have to say that sometimes when the players don't mark their personals, that's nothing to do with structure at all. At all. When Bruno allows the players to go past them, that's not the system. So, under Ten Hag, we had the same problems. Yeah. Hey, thank you for watching.